Next, of course, we have Mr. Ravi Ailawadhi, my friend from the Satcom Industries Association. He's also head of the Mathera India, which is a space company. He's going to be talking about something which is disruption through space and how Satcom is a frontier that is going to empower us. Let me also say that the Department of Space Studies came up because of the friendship of Ravi with MERI. And I think this is how the Satcom Industries Association, Space Industries Association, and MERI have come together to build the Department of Space Studies. Please give him a hand. Ravi, you have some slides? Okay, so great. So Ravi has also got some slides. In the meanwhile, I can continue to talk about it.
No, it's okay. We can put the slides
Fabrication is something which is extremely important. If we can design, but we can't fabricate, there's no point designing, you will end up working for somebody else. So if we're going to become a digital colony, it is because at the end of it, we can't manufacture and sell, but we will continue to design for somebody else who will manufacture and sell back to us. I think that is what is very important as far as innovation knowledge is concerned. The knowledge of fabrication is very important in innovation. Are you ready, Ravi?
I don't think they put the slides on, but let me start.
Okay.
Namaskar. First, my gratitude to Professor Agrawal, the management of MERI, the chair, and the distinguished guests to have invited me to make a dialogue on space. And then I was told the time limit is 10 minutes. For all of us sitting in the room would realize one thing, that we have one current sensation going on, a movie called Dhurandhar. And space technology is like a Dhurandhar. It's a very vast subject. How to keep that in 10 minutes itself is a challenge, especially when General Pannu and Anurag, they talked about some mouth fresheners. But the question is, after the mouth fresheners, I see most of people sleeping. So my activity also is to ensure that people are awake, right? So in terms of, I think that also defines how space works, because space is a subject, and when we think of how it started, when I was in college, I was told on every subject, on anything, I made a mistake. आप ये बात नहीं समझते कोई rocket science है. I think only when I joined the space technology, I realized that what was told to me is what it is. Space is a very complex, vast, and evolving subject, because in the beginning, how the space started, it started with the state administrations controlling their national programs, controlling the weather forecast, controlling the agenda which navigation, surveillance. But I think that was the beginning. And if some people would know, and especially for the students to know in particular, the first rocket which India launched was carried on the bicycle. And from there, where we have come, it's a big thing, because from the national agenda to the commercial agenda to the geopolitical agenda, I think space has definitely come out to be a national frontier, or the fourth frontier, in which it will play a very important part in the days ahead. We just spoke about, because I want to keep it very simple, I'm going to tell the students in particular what are the technologies that are available, what are they supposed to be doing, and what is the motive, what's the objective. And in my understanding, if the why is clear, how becomes easy. All my slides today are basically dependent upon why. Why are we doing this? And if why becomes clearer, how will become easy? It's going to be simple slides. And second part, beyond the slides, how BRICS and India can collaborate. And number three, now since I also represent SIA, how can SIA help you people? collaborate, come together, where we can make not only space as a success, but for the national noble interest. Do you have slides there? Okay. So let me just then carry on. Sir, I have been a part of electronic industry in telecom, and I was told telecom is a kickstart. Space is no different. So just giving it a kick. But I just expect that this session is going to be more interactive. I don't want to make a monologue because since I'm going to keep it simple on the basics, so that once the basics are clear, the next stage or next program when we hold, we'll go into the more complexities, how it's done, why it is done. But at this moment, all simple things.
Oh, okay, so we'll innovate. What I'll do is I'll go into conversation with Ravi.
Okay.
The moment first slide comes and we can change over. Ravi, tell me, what are the segments in space, loosely, when you talk about this segment, that segment? What are these segments in space?
So space basically is divided into 3 orbits in per se. Okay. Now these orbits are, first was geostationary, which is at 36,000 kilometers from the ground. Now that was a part which had high latency, and the visible point is when you look at the broadcast, all the satellites based at 36,000 kilometers has 650 to 750 milliseconds of latency. So you will always see when the anchor speaks and the response the speaker gives, there's a lapse. Okay? So that's one part which is controlled by the state administration. But then with the invention of the broadcast coming in, I think broadcast has played a major role for the privatization. Let me put it this way. First, to come into your question, so besides the geostationary, then we have right from 8,000 kilometers to 20,000 kilometers from the Earth, called a medium Earth orbit. The GPS technology basically is based there. And then where the success has come today, and everybody is talking about the various companies doing a lot of business, is the lower Earth orbit, which starts from 500 kilometers and goes up to 8,000 kilometers. These are the 3 orbits where most of the satellites are there. And besides this, you want to hear this one or something more in this one?
Okay, now that you're talking about these LEO, MEO, GEO, Ravi has a darling called the MEO. It means that he loves the medium Earth orbit. I want to ask him, why does he love MEO so much?
So let's first go through the history.
He was talking about the GPS is largely in the medium Earth orbit. But the moment you throw a satellite in the medium Earth orbit, it goes around the globe. So it becomes global. So what India did was that we selected a different technology, that we went and selected some mixture of geosynchronous and geostationary combined, so that those satellites remain visible to us all through, so they become regional. But within less satellites, we can do the same work. That number of satellites would be used to go into the medium Earth orbit. Medium Earth orbit, the satellites will not be static. They'll just keep going around and round. So in the regional system, IRNSS, which is also called NAVIC, we started with 11 satellites, came down to 7 satellites, functional 4 satellites. We were to replace 1 satellite. It did not go into the orbit a couple of months back. It has gone into a very different orbit. So some amount of signals are available, but they are not what we wanted. So as a result, the 11 satellite constellation in the geostationary configuration has not worked because we do not have as many satellites as they were supposed to be. So as a result, today we are dependent on the other constellation of other countries. We have GPS in any case as a mainstay for the entire world. But we have different Eurostar, GLONASS, which are available to us. Baidu is a sister with China, but Pakistan uses it, we don't. So as a result, we are dependent on somebody else, but we also are dependent on GNSS, but it is not the entire system which is available to us. So operationally, we are still challenged, but I think year on year, we have plans to launch more and more satellites, and ultimately now some of them would be in MEO. So there will be a large number of triangulation which will happen for giving us that kind of accuracy that we are looking for. I hope it answers the question.
Sorry for this hiccup. I think I'll try and cover as much as things in simplicity because it's the first interaction that's happening between MERI and the space. If I go into the complexities, I think we'll lose a subject and lose a discussion. Can you put this slide? Particular slide talks about how the space sector has grown. I've already covered in my earlier statement that how the space technology started. Now look at how it's growing. Look at the world market. The world market today is at 286 billion in 2022, and it plans to go up to 1 trillion by 2040. So you can imagine the concentration that's happening in the overall industry. And if you compare that with globe versus India, because India still is a new concept, but at the globe, if I take the CAGR in particular, which is 8.1%, started at 2022 at 286 billion, it goes up to 673 billion. When you compare that to India, we are at 8.4 billion in 2022. We plan to go to 44 billion alone. But look at that figure, 16% CAGR. Now, where is this supported from? India has large numbers of startups that has come up. India has grasped or embraced what is required in technology. Small units, we go to Bangalore area, you find that what people could not do for years together, the small startups are doing everything for us. Next. Now, this slide talks about where are we focusing, okay? We are focusing basically, when you talk about Satcom, okay? That's where the innovation first started. We're talking about the broadband. There was a discussion some time ago when it was told that Elon Musk wants to introduce the direct to mobile communications. I think the whole world, the whole satellite world started with this concept to provide broadband through satellites, because getting the satellites, getting the optical fiber onto the ground was a large task. With the innovation of the various technologies coming in, 5G coming in, the DTS coming in, there was a requirement to provide high-speed bandwidth. That's where the space technology came in, right? It started from the broadband alone. Now, what are we thinking? We're thinking about taking the data centers to the space, thinking about putting up the lab research for the medicines in space. That's where the migration has happened. But definitely the broadband makes the first beginning of the satellites, followed by the navigation, the question which you asked. We are trying something into the Earth observation. Satellites, we're launching small satellites, right? And India has become very popular, ISRO has become very popular in ensuring the faster turnaround for throwing satellites into the orbit. Launch vehicles, that is where every country in the world today is dependent upon India to come and launch their satellites through our launch vehicles. Ground network. See, any technology, especially satellites in particular, cannot support unless and until you have the ground network supporting it. It could be in the form of earth stations, which could be in the form of the ground terminals, right? And recently, the government of India has also announced sharing of the infrastructure where the ground network will be shared passively and will be run as a ground station as a service. Then the space domain is the part which is a new flavor of the day. Next. So this is what I was saying. Where did the innovation start from? It started basically was from the basic satellites, then the high speed came in, and then since the satellites have to be turned around faster, to build the satellites, since it's highly regulated, it takes lots and lots of time. That's the reason where most of the concentration of people happened in the LEO, where the constellations came up. It gave the high-speed satellites throughput. The turnaround was faster, the cost is less, and then it can provide a good bandwidth. Next. So this is what in the beginning I was saying. These are 3 bands on the left side in which the whole satellite world is working. What is happening today, and I think it's critical for the students to know, that everybody would have heard of some names here. For example, Eutelsat or OneWeb or Starlink, which is Elon Musk. Then you have Reliance Jio, okay? Now the first 2, Eutelsat, Starlink, they are into the LEO orbit, in the lower Earth orbit. Geo is the only organization as of today who are in the medium Earth orbit along with SES. The company I represent, Mathera, we are also into the medium Earth orbit, and we have formed the company here. I am the managing director. We're going through the licensing process, and soon you'll see our satellites also coming up. And then Amazon, which is AWS, they also are into the lower Earth orbit, awaiting clearances from the government. So these are some kind of okay, next. Bharti Mittal, that's right. Sir, I do not know really, because the curse today is what you have a feeling, what the Britishers also have the same feeling. Because Bharti got OneWeb at a throwaway price, right? Then Bharti played a good trick. He sold himself to Eutelsat. Yes. So OneWeb, the brand name remains, but it's controlled by Eutelsat. But now, of course, Bharti has 18% share in Eutelsat. So you can say it's an Indian representation. Well, for a businessman, this is the opportunity. Sir, see, the question is, if you are ahead of the curve, then things can go haywire. Okay. So this shows the progression of where we started from and where we are, right? Our action started way back in 2018 when the satellite broadband concept was thought of, and today we are in 2025. I'm not covering the whole year-by-year progression. It's all in the slides. You can share, can be shared later. The question here is, what became important in the satellite world? That is where you'll see, after reforms, you'll see the KU band was first given to the private operators to give DTH. That arose the needs of the broadband, and then the Ka band started and the Wiz band started. Next. Now, these are the bands in which we all are operating, okay? The spectrum allocation, as I said, becomes a very, very critical part in terms of the space technology as such. There are various bands, LNS band, which runs in 1 to 4 gigahertz. We have C band, which is 3.7 to 4.2. Then you have a KU band in which the high throughput satellites, the DTH is functioning. Now, The Ka band is coming for the broadband, and then we have Q and V, which is the future. Okay. Next. Now, this is where things become important. I've just covered what the satellite system today is. I've not gone through the complications. I just mentioned what we are doing. Okay. Now, where we and BRICS nation can collaborate. So the first line itself says, the BRIC nations collectively offer complementary strengths across technology development, manufacturing capability, and diverse market access. Now, where does it come from? First part, I think Anurag was saying that we have BRICS as a whole covered 35% of the world market. The issue is, one advantage we have in all the BRIC nations, you have lots and lots of unserved connectivity markets, which could be both in terms of rural broadband, maritime, aviation, disaster resilience. Now, the problem with the satellite is the spectrum. Spectrum creates a lot of coordination. It's a very coordinated network. Because of its wireless, you have to coordinate, otherwise, you know what happens in a free Wi-Fi. So people want to prevent this going to this, into many problems. Infrastructure, partnerships, constellation partnerships which India can offer, because I, for one, can talk about my own company. I'm not selling myself, but we are here and we want to be a true Indian company. We really want to set up under the Bharat Atmanirbhar program under the guidance of the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and we are there to sit with the various people, including BRICS nation. What are their requirements? What are their specific country requirements? We all can sit together, design, develop, and launch from India. Of course, some time ago, there was a question of the financing. Satellite is a very costly, capital-intensive market. It requires a lot of money, There are people, there are some foreign direct investments that have come in, but not to the extent where the investments are to the extent where we feel happy. I think that is where the BRICS nations or the BRICS Bank can support us. Next. So as I said, what are the key challenges? Spectrum. Satcom licensing is a long process. The government says 3 months from date of filing, but I think it takes 3 years for filing. So the process, the clarifications, the domain knowledge, it takes much longer. I'm not saying anything wrong, but you can.
No, I'll take care.
Spectrum allocation, it takes a lot of time. Infrastructure, because as I said, satellite is a world which is evolving. The issue is technology is new. The people who are doing it is new. So there's a lot of dependency upon the foreign operators. The knowledge base is there. That's where we sat with Professor Agarwal as an SI and MERI. We thought the skill set is required in India so that we can develop the skill sets here, which is the last one, the workforce, the skill deficit is a huge one. Next. Way forward, which has been covered already, but I'm saying the policy to execute could be discussed. The multi-orbit ecosystem, which country requires which band, we can do that. Spectrum protection, the industrial and startup depth, because we have a lot of startups here, And last one, which is the most important one, that BRICS can become a multiplier to the world. We can provide all those aspirations, the future programs of technology which the world is looking for can be given by the BRIC nations. Next. Okay, now as far as what is concerned, which I said a simple talk about satellites has been covered. Okay? I will go through the Q&A once every presenter has given their presentation. But I want to mention which the other hat which I wear as the director of SIA. SIA is a non-profitable Satcom industry association formed by us 4 years ago. We are a bridge between the satellite operators and the industry. We cover not only the operators part, we cover each sector of it. Could be manufacturing, could be development, could be R&D. Everything is covered by us. And already we have present in 30 countries, people are our partners. And there are more than 50 MOUs we have signed, including one with MERI. So this is all what we do in SIA, and I would request all the big nations, in case we can have a dialogue with them, we can come to some understanding, and so we can build not only Atmanirbhar, but we can build for a national noble cause in which satellites will play an important part. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Please, there was a latency in loading this slide, but I think they've well understood latency.